Hello, welcome to Tweet to Lead a New podcast where we chat about realistic leadership theories. Oh man, we haven't been on live for so long. We've been hosting the National Black Canadian Summit episodes, but hey, we're back from a virtual perspective where we want to bring back individuals who are doing amazing things in community. I have been involved in so much projects, conferences, and I've connected with so many individuals in community. And I have this amazing individual. Her name is April Adams. She's a great friend of mine. She is a passionate individual. She's someone who is, I would say, outrageous or contagious for community attributes and all that good stuff. And so, April Adams, how are you this morning? Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. We're getting like the first onset of snow here.
Oh,
So we've been very privileged up until now, but it's kind of like, fresh and new and I always enjoy change. So I went out and bought two sleds and I'm ready
oh
for
wow.
it.
Oh wow, sleds. Oh, that's really good. I would love to go sled riding this winter. We'll
I
see.
will
But
tell you.
April, yeah, you just call me. Just call me. It'll be really good. Like I said earlier, April is a great individual. She's passionate. She works for the federal government, dealing with different indigenous issues, but also dealing with diverse cultural perspective.
Mhm.
And today we're going to be joining into the conversation today, April, about I'm talking about cultural backgrounds and cultural acceptances and stuff like that. And so I want to start today's conversation by asking when interacting from a different culture, religion, background than your own, how do you ensure your communication is effective? And I know that you work for the federal government, you do a lot of different communication lines and stuff like that. I think that's the easy way in
Yes,
of a
yes. I love
conversation. Yeah, yeah,
communication. It's one of my
yeah.
favorite topics, and language too. So key for sure. I think like that effective communication definitely depends on a person's level of awareness.
Yeah,
That's the route I'd take, and I'd even take it a step further and say I think effective communication is fostered by a person's like self-awareness for sure, and their
right,
awareness of others. So
right.
understanding our own and others' communication styles and limits, because we all have limits.
Yes, 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 and that's so true. We all have limits, in knowing how to communicate. I spoke at a workshop that I presented, talking about presenting with impact, and that's what communication is all about. That impact, making sure that there's things that are clear and concise, so that there's no room for misunderstanding from another individual's perspective, and accepting that you may hear things that you may not like, but it's there to help you and to groom you and stuff like that. And at a conference I attended in Montreal that I actually spoke at, and I said that, you know what, in communication, you may hear something that might have hurted the community, and that's not something that's your problem. It's a society issue that's not being dealt with or being aware of and stuff like that. But it needs to be spoken out, and so that persons will be aware of what's going on.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. You're right. Because depending on our own intersectionality, the environments we grew up in, are factors we need to consider to
yeah,
ensure like we truly understand conversations that we're having. It's the little things that stem from differing past experiences, beliefs, and our brains can misunderstand and take shortcuts, make
right.
assumptions that limits our understanding. So, like for example, if you're driving the same route all the time,
Mhm.
consistently, and then you have to go somewhere else, but you take that same route halfway and need to take a turn, but you just don't take the turn and you keep going. That's a shortcut. Or just taking a drink of water or breathing. Our brain takes these shortcuts. And thank goodness, I don't want to have to think about every single action it takes to take a drink of water. But, it has that other opposite effect as well with biases. It creates biases too. So I'm
Yeah,
on board.
yeah. Wow. Biases is a whole different topic, and we can go into that. It's a whole different area. But April, values have to come into play as well. Valuing people, valuing what they bring to the table, and how they connect their work and stuff like that. In today's working society, I feel that employers are still learning on how to value its employees. Society is still trying to value how to value its cultural differences and cultural perspective and stuff like that. But my question to you is, how do you cultivate a culture that values differences and different perspective? How do you cultivate that?
I think the key is we definitely need to be allies. I like the word allies,
Mm,
and allyship is so important. Taking that time to learn about, to understand, and support other people and their cultures ignites
right,
that self growth within ourselves. And the more we do
right.
it, we end up conditioning ourselves into having a growth mindset. Lifelong learning is lifelong. So we also need to
Mm,
understand that, being open to learning, like you said earlier, it can bring about vulnerability. We're all
yeah.
humans. We all make mistakes, and that makes us feel uncomfortable sometimes, and that's okay. But
Uncomfortable is good.
yes,
Uncomfortable is good. It's good.
yes,
It's good for you. Yeah.
yes. Just
Yeah.
don't let the shame, fear, or
Yeah.
grief or other emotions, negative ones, take the lead or helm when you're
Mhm.
feeling vulnerable. It's okay that we make mistakes, and I think that being vulnerable, acting through vulnerability, helps us
Mm,
grow, and stepping outside of our comfort zones, as you said, making those mistakes and being vulnerable feels icky sometimes
yeah,
on different
it does.
levels.
It does.
But it's definitely part of cultivating,
Right.
values, culture, and values and differences. I'm tongue tied
Yeah.
this morning.
No, 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 no. That's totally true. And my question, I think I'm just gonna do an add-on to this question.
Sure.
What does vulnerability mean to you? Like, how do you define your own self in vulnerability?
So I think that vulnerability to me is being authentic.
Mm,
Sometimes we get lost from the time we're very small
right.
until we become adults, and we take on all of these other things that we think or that we feel are expected of us, and we
Yeah.
lose some of our own authenticity, that genuine me, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that being vulnerable first is finding yourself, and sometimes it's
Right.
like really really deep down in there, that loving self, but
Mm,
bringing it up and being comfortable in our own skin, and that our own genuine authenticity.
right.
Yeah, so that's kind of the core for me is being yourself. And then the second part of vulnerability for me is I know I'm being vulnerable when I get nervous or when I feel fear or shame or
Yeah.
grief. And that makes me want to run the other way and not be vulnerable. But the more I do it and the more I practice it, the easier it gets, like anything in life usually. So yeah, those would be kind of those two components, and that is probably the biggest thing that helps me be an ally. An ally goes two ways, right? If you see
Right.
somebody trying to be an ally and they're tripping up and they're falling down, help them up.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
courage on both sides, right?
Yeah, I agree. Help somebody, help someone to build, help someone to hold their hand, help them to know the way because they may need help to be resourceful. There's a lot of people that has a lot of different resources and a lot of different information. Stop holding that to yourself. Give it to the
Share.
world. Give it to the world. Allow persons to hear what you have to say in order to mentor them and to guide them into the right direction if you feel that there's something wrong in that area of knowing different perspective and stuff like that.
A
So
hundred
yeah,
percent. I completely
really
agree.
important, really important.
Very.
April, I touch on this other question. Do you feel that people can voice an opposing view or argument without fear or consequences? Because I think that's why people are afraid to speak out or to mentor and to encourage people from their own perspective because they may feel that there's going to be pushbacks and stuff like that. How do you feel about that?
So I feel vulnerable in answering this question.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, no. Sadly, not everywhere. We aren't there yet.
Yeah.
In regards to, having that comfort to voice opposing views and opinions without fear or consequence. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I always think about like hate and how
Mm,
powerful of an emotion that is, and how much it needs healing and
yeah.
help and community. And not everyone has access to that or knows how
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
which complicates things much further. But other human beings who you can voice your opposing opinions and your views around safely, that that is the most important thing in my opinion, because when you find those safe spaces and you grow in those spaces and you ignite yours and others' self-growth, it creates that growth mindset and makes
Right.
positive change happen.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that power is in numbers. And when you have a
Mm,
community,
yeah.
when you have a network and a support system, anything is possible. Humanity needs connection and
Yeah.
belonging. So go find your
Yeah.
people. They're out there.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah. Yeah, go find your people. Be there, and you're my people. You're a
What
part of me
people
as well. Yes,
do.
you're my people as well. And so I think that that's really good. April, I want to touch on the work that you're doing and your work and all that good stuff. So tell us a little bit about that and how this this cultural perspective connects with the work that you do. Yeah.
So it has a huge part for sure. I feel like I've grown a lot in the last couple of years, especially with COVID, and I took a new role with the federal government, Jordan's Principle and Inuit Child First Initiative. And I worked there for the last couple of years, and I'm just moving on now into another a role with the Inclusion Deputy Minister's Office, which I'm so excited about. Sad to leave where I was. Because I learned so much and I grew so much as a person there, but also excited for the new challenge.
Yeah.
So we really focus on, ensuring marginalized peoples. In this case, when I was working with Jordan's Principle and Inuit Child First Initiative, Indigenous peoples, and that encompasses in Canada First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. And so my role was to help in Inuit and First Nations children get accesses to supports and services that they need so desperately across the country. And I one of my favorite things about the role was learning about communities in the farthest reaches of the country. What they're going through, what their needs are, and how their needs might be over and above that of many other people in Canada. So
Mm,
that was very, very eye opening to me.
right.
But my favorite thing about the experience, I think, was seeing and learning about how wonderful these communities are. Their feeling of belonging, they're just getting back their languages,
Right.
their ceremonies. There
Mhm.
are so many great aspects of each one of these over 600 um, communities. You know, it's just a wonderful, eye-opening, humbling experience that I will always be grateful for. I'll take it with me into everything I do, and it definitely ignited self growth in me, and helped me on my lifelong learning journey, to hopefully become a better human being.
Wow.
Humanity's key.
Wow. That's really important, and that's kudos to you on the work that you're doing. You're an ally because you're allying and helping to create different work and different resources and creating different ways to create a whole diverse acceptance and also creating that way of a smooth path for Indigenous people and people in general as well. And so thank you for
Thank
the
you.
work that you're doing and stuff like that. So you built a new course, and I want to talk a little bit about it. Whatever you want to share, I just want to hear more about this course that you have started. That's going to help other people in general. Yeah.
So in leaving at Jordan's Principle and Inuit Child First Initiative, my last project was working on a cultural humility course,
Mm,
and again, one of those epiphany moments in life that kickstart another round of self growth.
yeah.
I learned so much from it, and so much that I'll take with me throughout my life. One of the really big things that was introduced to me through a wonderful woman I work with, Ashley Keys, was Indigenous worldview. I got to really dive deep into it, so I was aware of it. I knew about it, but we integrated it into this course, and very eye opening. I really recommend anybody to look it up. Elder Dumont speaks about it and goes over it in a very clear, concise manner that very eye opening. It talks about human beings and not just about humans, but other life forms on this earth and how important we are as a system. It just makes sense when you read it. I say that, and then just to touch base quickly on cultural humility, and I'll try not to mess up my language because I'm now working on a humanity and belonging course, but
Mm,
cultural humility is really about some of the stuff we've touched on today already. So self awareness, awareness of others, and then the final kind of components of that, which are very key, would be power imbalance, power
mm,
imbalances that we see all around us, and really checking them and mitigating them in our systems and institutions. It's the only way we're going to be able to have an inclusive society, and help those marginalized peoples get up to the same starting points in regards to substantive equality. So yeah, very exciting
wow.
and an amazing experience, and very
Wow.
lucky to work with the amazing people and the team there as well.
Wow, that's so amazing, April, to hear that, and I really do appreciate you sharing that. That's really touching. Humanity is really important, and in human approach. Oh, that's a different topic for a different day. For talking about human approach and how to connect with humans and listening to where it goes and how that listening helps to impact. But that's another day for another conversation. Because I'm going to welcome you back indeed to have more conversations with you. But before we go today, April, I always try to allow persons to give us a quote, to give us a blessing before we go out for the rest of this week or this day for us to be inspired. So, what quote would you say that's going to help other people be inspired by the work of being open in this whole cultural perspective?
So it's not a quote from me actually, and you're going to already know this because both of us attended the Buddy Day Institute's 10-year anniversary
Mm-hmm.
gala
Yeah,
at the Weston. Is it the Weston? Yes, the
yeah,
Weston.
yeah, yeah.
um, uh, and it really touched me. The keynote speaker there, Reverend Tutu, Naomi, and actually her father Desmond Tutu, who just did the World Joy Summit, also spoke about this quote, and I want to share it to hopefully inspire people to learn more about it. and I hope I pronounce it properly, but it's Mbundu. Is that right? Did I say it
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm, mhm,
Oh,
mhm, mhm.
excellent.
Ubuntu. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of like exactly what we've been talking about all day today, and it just blew me away, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and I really love that the Buddy Day Institute has that integrated in what they do. So yeah, that would be it, and it really talks about community, humanity, belonging, the need for connection, and my favorite part is allyship, empathy, compassion. When Naomi spoke about the story about Mandela
Mhm,
in prison, it just
mhm,
grew my heart, and
yeah.
it makes you have faith in humanity once again, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Faith in humanity, Ubuntu. Wow. For me, that means togetherness,
I
working
love it.
together for common goals. April Adams, it's been a pleasure interviewing you on Tweet the Leader New podcast today. I look forward to connecting with you more. Thank you so much. Um, Inspirational, motivational movements. That's where we need to go
I love
moving forward
it.
in the neighborhood conversations, not the neighborhood but in the neighborhood, having lots of conversations with other people. And I have the privilege of having lots of conversations with Tweet the Leader New podcast, being an ally, and being the host of another podcast called The Neighborhood Conversation. So it connects with us having both conversations in order to serve community, in order to move forward, in order to get all this message across. And so, April, I'll see you at the neighborhood conversations for us to
Sounds
have
good.
another designated conversation.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
everyone,
me.
and have a great day.
See you
Yeah.
soon.